What's up guys, my name is Seth and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about all things layers in Procreate. So we're going to go through all the features that are featured in the layers panel, all the options, all the menus. We're going to go over everything just so you have a good working knowledge of how layers work in the program. And in part 2 of this video, we're going to be doing a project where we kind of recap everything we learned in this video, pull it all together to create a quick project. So without further ado, grab your iPad, open up Procreate, and let's get started. All right guys, so we are in Procreate. As you can see, I already have a canvas opened, and this is just a screen size canvas. So the way you're gonna do this, if you don't have it open by now, when you're in your gallery, just go ahead and hit this plus button over here. Hit the screen size option. It should be the first option that pops up, and it will open up a new canvas like that. So if you don't know about the interface of Procreate at all, I do have an introduction video that's about 15 minutes long that kind of runs you through the entire interface of Procreate. So I will link that above if you guys want to check that out. Like I said, today we're going to be talking about all things layers. So the layers panel is actually right here. It's kind of the two squares that are stacked behind each other. If you hit that, that opens up your layers panel. So when you open up the layers panel, it does look pretty simple. The first thing you're going to be greeted with here is your first layer that's going to be selected here in blue, and then your background color layer. Now this is its own layer. You can never take it away or erase it or delete it, but you can turn it off. And a way to turn layers on and off in Procreate is to simply tap this little check mark here. That will turn your layer on and off. So say later on you want to save your art piece with no background color to it, you can simply just uncheck the background color and save it as a PNG. If you want to change your background color, simply tap on the preview window here. It'll bring up your color picker, and you can change this to any color you could imagine. Now, I'm not entirely sure why you would need a solid red background, but if you do, feel free to change it. For the rest of the video today, though, we're just going to use a slightly gray background. So come over to white and then just drag your cursor down. If I could do it, come on. There we go. So go over to white here, drag your cursor down. We're just going to kind of use a little mid-tone gray here. So across the board on any digital art program, you're going to have layers. Layers basically just help you organize your art. You can put certain things on certain layers. That way, if you want to change them later or move them around, you have that flexibility. So now that we're here, the first thing I want to teach you guys are some quick gestures. So if you swipe left on a layer like this, you get 3 options. You have the option to lock a layer, duplicate it, or clear it out. Lock just locks the layer so you cannot change it, you can't alter it without unlocking it. This is really good if you have line art that you don't want to destroy or accidentally color on top of. You can simply lock that layer and you can't do anything into it until you swipe to the left and hit unlock. Your next option here is to duplicate a layer. So say, for instance, I have something on a layer. So let's just pick a simple brush, pick a simple round brush. I'm on layer 1 here. And let's just draw a quick squiggle like that. As you can see, that is on layer 1 here. So if I swipe to the left, I hit duplicate, that will create another layer 1. So it's basically creating a copy of your layer. And then you can do things like move it around, rotate it, whatever you want to do. So since we don't need that, we're just gonna delete that for now. You swipe to the left, and the last option here is to clear. Now, you only have the clear option here on layer 1 because you have to have at least 1 layer in your artwork. But say if I duplicate this layer and I swipe to the left on the layer that's on top, I have the option to delete the layer. So just keep that in mind. You always have to have at least 1 layer in your artwork. So if you hit clear, it's just going to clear out that layer. You hit the plus mark here to add layers, and you can continue to add as many layers as you want. Well, that's actually not true because Procreate does have a cap on how many layers you can have in your artwork. And that is dependent on how large your iPad is, not just the screen size, but like how much space you have. So a way to check how many layers you have available in your specific artwork, hit the wrench icon here, which is your actions panel. Hit canvas. We're going to hit canvas information and hit layers. That's going to show you how many layers. So as you can see here, I have a maximum 115 layers. I've used 8 and I have 107 available. So that's one way you can kind of just track. Alrighty, so now we have all these layers that we don't need. Like I said, we're going to swipe to the left, hit delete. Now you can keep doing this for each one, But if you want to select multiple layers at a time and just delete them, all you're going to do is swipe to the right on every layer that you want to select. And as you can see, two options come up here. We have the option to group or the option to delete. If you notice, the layers that I have selected all turn blue, but the one that is active, so the one that if I were to take a brush and start drawing, it would be on layer 6. So now that we have everything selected, I don't want to group them, I'm just going to delete them. So the first thing we're going to do is fill our layer 1 here with a random color. Actually, we're going to make a square and just fill it with a color. So to do that, hit the selection tool here, a little squiggle up here. Take our rectangular tool, make a rectangle. Make sure you're on layer 1 and just grab a random color. I'm just going to grab this kind of aqua color here. Drag it from the color picker, drag it down, fill that layer up. So now we have this blue rectangle on layer 1 here. We're going to hit a plus. Now you can see layer 2 is active here. And what we're going to do on layer 2 is pick a different color. Let's do orange. And with a round brush, or any brush you want to choose, I'm just going to go with the round brush for today. Tap back out, make sure we're on layer 2, and just draw some random funky shape. I'm just going to do a squiggle. So now that we have this, I want to show you a couple options before we move on. So if you tap with 2 fingers on a layer like that, you get the option for the opacity bar, which you can then just slide your stylus to the left or right to change the opacity. So that's one quick gesture just to note in layers panel. There's a couple more, but that's what we'll focus on today. If you tap the little N here, that is actually your blend modes. So if you tap that, you get this menu that drops down here. I think of these as like photo filters for like when you take a photo on your camera and you start putting filters on it, you know, things like that. Just think of it that way, but it's for your layers. So you can see as I go through different blend modes, that orange squiggle looks different and it's interacting differently with the canvas and with the blue square that's underneath it on layer 1. For now, we're just gonna go back to normal, which is what it's always set to. That's why you see that little N there. And as you can see, we also have the option to adjust the opacity in this menu as well. So not only can you double tap with 2 fingers on the layer to quickly adjust your opacity like that, you also have the option to just hit the N here and adjust your opacity that way as well. So if you tap on the preview of your layer, you get a bunch of other options as well. So let's go ahead and just tap there. As you can see, we have all these options. So let's run through what they are. So your first option here is rename. I would highly suggest you use this when you are setting up a real piece and just make sure you kind of keep track of your layers by naming them things. I do not do that all the time and it comes back to bite me later on when I need to go change something and I can't find what layer is on super easy because I have nothing named. So keep this in mind. Always try to name your layers as you add them. I know sometimes you get into your art and it just gets distracting, but please, you'll regret it later. So just make it a habit now. So like I said, rename. If you tap rename, you have the option to rename that layer. So I'm just going to name it orange squiggle. I can't spell squiggle. Orange squiggly. Sure, why not? So that's the rename option. Pretty simple and straightforward. Next option here is to select. If you hit select, that's just going to select everything that's on that layer, but it's going to select the pixels basically. So if we hit select, as you can see, we have this kind of hatched marking that is around the orange squiggle. So that means that's not selected, but anywhere where the orange is, you can see we don't see those hatch marks. So that means that's what it did select. And basically what that allows you to do is it selects the shape of what's on that layer and the pixels on that layer, but it doesn't select the color, if that makes sense. So I could, for instance, come here and hit plus, make a new layer, find a completely different color. Let's do purple, drag that purple into that selection. And now I have that exact same squiggle, but in purple on a different layer as well. So we don't need that. Swipe to the left, delete. Our next option here is to copy. It's basically like when you're on your computer and you hit copy paste, it's the same exact thing. So it's just gonna copy that orange squiggle. So the quick way to paste is to swipe down on your canvas with 3 fingers. So swipe down. And then you have the option to cut, copy, paste, all that good stuff. So we're just gonna hit paste. As you can see, it brings up your move tool automatically. That's because it placed it on a new layer. So then I can come in here, move it around to its final position, and then tap out of that. And now I have a copy of the orange squiggle. Your next option here is to fill the layer. If you hit this, it's just gonna fill this current layer that you're on with whatever color that is in your color picker. So for instance, if I hit fill layer right now, it has filled the whole orange squiggly layer with purple because that was the color that I have here in the color picker. Now, if we don't want this to happen, a quick way we can go back is to tap with 2 fingers to go back, and you can tap with 3 fingers to go forward or redo. Or you can hit the back arrow right here as well. So tap with 2 fingers, now we're back to where we started. Okay, our next option here is to clear. That's just gonna clear out the content on that layer. So if I hit clear, it's just gonna get rid of the orange squiggly, but the layer itself is still there. Tap with 2 fingers, now we're back. So alpha lock basically, it kind of just locks your pixels and you can't color outside the pixels, but you stay on the same layer. I know I just said a lot, but let me just show you what it means. So if I hit alpha lock, you can see here that now we have this kind of checkerboard pattern in our preview behind. That means that this layer has alpha lock on. You won't be able to draw outside of where the orange is right now. So if I'm on the same layer, I stay on the orange squiggly layer and I want to add in some purple. I already have purple selected here. With alpha lock turned on, as you can see, I'm coloring in the purple only where the orange is. And if we go to our layers panel, we can see that we're still on the same layer that had the orange, but we were able to stay within the framework of where the orange was already laid down. So that's alpha lock can come in handy. You want to just quickly add some color in. You don't want to go outside the lines, basically. And to turn alpha lock on, simply tap. You see that check mark next to alpha lock, that means it's on. Just tap that same option, it'll turn it off for you. And you should see that checkerboard pattern disappear. The next option here is a mask. So a mask, think of it as a non-destructive way to erase items from your canvas. So basically in digital art, there are things called destructive edits, non-destructive edits. And it's exactly what it sounds like. A destructive edit is something that you cannot come back from unless you undo right then and there, but it's something essentially that you cannot change later on. And a non-destructive edit is simply an edit that you can change later. It's not destructive to your artwork as a whole. It can be altered, it can be erased. So that's what a mask is. It basically is a non-destructive way to erase or reshape an item that's in your artwork already. Okay, so to demonstrate a mask, I'm gonna turn this orange squiggly layer off completely. We don't even need that right now. So we're gonna come back to layer 1. So just tap layer 1, it should turn blue like that. We're gonna come here and hit mask. So once you hit layer mask, you're gonna see the layer mask pop up on top of layer 1. As you can see, layer 1 is selected, but it's not active. The layer mask is active because it's bright blue. And you see that that layer mask is white. So basically the way that this works is if you choose the opposite color that the mask is, so we're gonna choose black with the same brush, and we are on our layer mask layer. If I draw with black on this layer, it will erase the blue layer. So say if I want to make this new shape now. So we're gonna erase all of this. And I just want it to be this little slither of blue at the bottom. I could do that. But the cool thing to note about a layer mask, as you can see, the blue layer is still there in its entirety, but we're only seeing this because we blacked it out. But say later on in my artwork, I want to show more of that blue. We're just gonna do the opposite of what we did to get rid of the blue. So we're gonna go to white. On that same layer mask that's now black, we're going to use the color white to color back in the blue. And now we have all of our blue back and the layer mask is still there. So yeah, like I said, this is a non-destructive way to quickly alter a shape, to make an edit without completely destroying or reshaping or restructuring a layer. So for the rest of this tutorial, we will not need the layer mask, so we're just going to swipe it to the left and hit delete. And now we're back to square one. Our next option here is a clipping mask. I love clipping mask so much. I talk about it all the time on Instagram. So this feature is really cool. So a clipping mask it essentially does what it sounds like it's doing. It's gonna clip whatever layer you select to the layer below it. So for instance, when I hit that here, you see this little arrow that points down to layer 1. So that means this orange squiggly layer is now clipped to the blue layer underneath. And you see when I did that, let me go ahead and unclip it really quick. So you see the whole squiggle here, right? When we clip it, you see that that orange squiggle is now within the blue. So you can see how this comes in handy a lot. And we can still do things like move it around. We take our green here and rotate it. We can alter its shape. We can, you know, do whatever we want to this orange squiggle. But as long as it's clipped down to layer 1, it's not going to come outside of layer 1. So this comes in handy a lot. Let me show you a quick scenario, actually. So what I'm going to do is quickly, I'm going to make a circle selection. So we're going to go to ellipse, and to make a perfect circle, just put your finger down. Sometimes it doesn't like to work. There we go. So if you press one finger down and you drag out, you should get a perfect circle like that. So I'm just going to fill it with a random color. So I'm going to fill it with this purple here, right? And I actually found a concrete texture online that I'm going to import in right now. So I quickly just imported in this really high definition concrete texture here. So as you can see, when we go back to our layers panel, we have the inserted image. We can go ahead and just name that concrete texture. So as you can see, concrete texture, make sure it's on top of layer 3. And layer 3 is our circle here. We're just going to position it like this using our move tool, which is right there. Hit move and you can drag it around. Simply just position this texture over the purple. We're going to go to our options here, tap the preview and hit clipping mask. As you can see, Procreate just clipped the concrete texture down to the shape that was on layer 3. So you can see how this will come in handy a lot as you start to use digital art. You can basically make any shape you want and clip different colors and different layers on top. And I can continue to clip as many layers as I want to on top of this layer. So say if I want to add shadow, I can clip another layer on top, come in with a different brush. Let's say a soft brush like that. Lower our opacity a little bit. And I can simply draw in. But as you can see, it's not going outside of that shape that's on layer 3 because it's clipped down to layer 3. I'm just going to blur this out a little bit, make it look a little bit more natural. And we can come in here and rename this layer to shadow. And now we have a shadow, but as you can see, layer 3 is our base. So if we were to turn every other layer off, and you can quickly preview a layer by just holding down on the check mark, it'll turn every other layer off other than that one. So that's a quick way to kind of check what's on a layer as well. As you can see, we started with layer 3. We clipped the concrete down to layer 3. And then we clipped the shadow layer down and we painted on that layer. And like I said, you can continue to do this as much as you want just by hitting clipping mask. So next we're going to add a little highlight up at the top here. Nothing major, just some light brush strokes here and there. Blur it out a little bit. And then you can see our highlight is on layer 6. Now to make this highlight look a little bit more believable, we can alter the blend mode. So you can do that by hitting the N here. And just kind of playing with these until you see something that looks like it works. So my favorite is add. It looks a little harsh right now, but you can just take your opacity here and slide it down until it looks a little bit more natural. So maybe somewhere in there. So yeah, as you can see, clipping masks are very, very important and will help you a lot as you go throughout your digital art and just creating things in general. So keep that in mind. I would normally spend way more time on making this look a little bit more realistic, but since for the sake of this video, say if we're done, we love how this looks now, but we don't want all these layers kind of just sitting here taking up space. And we know we want this to be a concrete ball at the end of this art piece. We can just go ahead and group everything and flatten it down. So let me show you how to do that. So go ahead and tap on layer 3. Since everything is clipped to layer 3, you want to make sure layer 3 is selected first. Just swipe the other layers that you want to group together. Hit group. So it's going to throw everything into a group. You can still expand this group down and see everything in there. So that's one way you can do it. But say if I know I don't want to come back for this, I don't want to make any changes, I'm just going to flatten it down. And the way to do that is just tap on your group like you would a layer. So just tap here. And you have these options where you can rename the group, you can flatten it, you can merge it down or combine it down. We're just going to hit flatten. And as you can see now, we have this concrete ball on layer 3. So now that we are back here, we're gonna go back to our orange squiggly layer and tap. So our next option down is invert. When you tap it, it's just gonna invert the color to the opposite color. So as you can see, it was orange first. Opposite of orange is blue. So when you hit invert, it's gonna turn it blue. So I don't really use this option too often. If my layer is white, I use it as a quick way to turn something that's white black, but I don't really use it for colors. But if you want the option to invert, simply tap, hit invert, and you can invert your color. Next option here is reference. Now to quickly show you this, I'm going to have to quickly make a shape for you. So what we're gonna do here is turn these layers off. We're gonna hit our plus to create a new layer called layer 4. And I'm gonna come in with a drawing brush. Actually, no. Let's do an inking brush. So to quickly show you this, I'm just gonna draw a square with 4 quadrants. So I'm just gonna make a square shape. I know it looks really rough right now, but if you hold it down and then put your finger down, you can make a solid square. I'm just gonna fill in this little gap because I started it at the wrong spot. And then from there, I'm just gonna quickly make a not even quadrant. So boom, we have this quadrant here. As you can see, all of our line work here is closed. There's no gaps anywhere. So imagine if you have a sketch or something, you've done a character design and you have your clean line work. You don't want to mess that up, but you want to start coloring. Reference is a great way to use your line work as a guide to start filling in colors on your canvas. So if you tap this layer and we make this layer a reference layer, what you can do now is basically make a new layer, grab a color. Say if I want to make this square purple, I can find the purple here, drag purple in, and as you can see, it just filled that square with purple. But if we go to our layers panel, purple is on its own layer, and we have nothing on our reference layer. So Procreate is referencing your line work from the reference layer and using it to help you fill in colors and draw. So you can keep doing this. You can pick a new color, drag and drop. Same, drag and drop. Sure, why not? Drag and drop. So now you can see we have these 4 colors on their own layer, and the line work is still on its own layer. So that's where reference comes into play. All right, our next option is to merge down. So merge down, when you hit it, as you can see, it merged the orange down onto the blue layer, and now they're one layer. So if I want to go to move it, as you can see, they're moving together because they're one layer. So that's, I'm just going to go back a little bit. There we go. So that is merge layer. Now combine down is going to make a group out of your layers. So if I hit that, as you can see, the option for new group came up, and then the orange squiggly in layer 1, which I still should have named blue. As you can see, they are now in a new group together. And it just kind of helps keep your layers panel a little bit more organized. And pro tip, you can actually move a group around. So as you can see, I can just select my group here, hit the move layer, and I can still move everything as if they were merged together, but they're not, they're just in a group. So you can. Feature set here. I forgot, there is one more feature that is hidden in the layers, and it's only available if something else is on. So this is called drawing assist. So if we're in our layers panel here, the way to enable this feature, you have to go to your actions here, go to canvas and turn on your drawing guide. So, and you can edit this guide to be anything you want, but we won't go into that. So say if you have your drawing guide on, this is when this option is enabled. And it's called Drawing Assist. It's gonna pop up right under a clipping mask here. So once you hit that, you'll see that layer 7 here, it says assisted underneath. So basically, anytime I draw on this layer, it's gonna follow whatever my guidelines are. So even if I have a perspective like set up in my drawing guide, the lines will follow the perspective to the point. So let me show you what I mean. So we have assisted here. Let's just pick a round brush again. So we're on layer 7, it's assisted, we have our brush. Anytime I draw, no matter where I draw, it's only gonna draw lines that follow the guide. And I can go horizontal as well. And like I said, this works also if I have a perspective grid. So if I turn on perspective, let's change this color so we can actually see the lines. So there we go. Hit done. Turn drawing assist on this layer. And as you can see, as I draw, all the lines are going to converge to our vanishing point. You can also, obviously, because when you're in one perspective, you can still do horizontal lines. So you can still draw those as well. So basically when you have drawing assist on, it just helps you stay within the parameters of your guide. So if you have a perspective, it'll draw perspective lines for you. If you have a 2D grid, it'll draw horizontal and vertical lines for you. Cool. Well, all right, guys, that is all I have for you today. I hope you learned a little bit about layers in Procreate. Like I said, this is part 1 of the video. In part 2, we're going to take all these skills. So just how you saw me make this quick concrete ball thing, we're going to take all these skills that we just learned from layers and use that to make a really cool looking door. So that's going to be over in part 2. So be looking out for that video coming soon. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please feel free to share this video with other people who are new to digital art, who you think might be interested in learning about it. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.